Hi folks, welcome to the today's stream. This week we are going to look at a couple of migration related use cases. Last week we looked at moving across your local dev production environment using Hasura migrations. This time we are going to look at a complete end-to-end flow where we'll write an application, develop on it locally, deploy it to a staging instance, and then when we verify everything is working, move that to production, all using a couple of tools like GitHub, um, maybe Circle CI for the CI/CD tasks, and Netlify or something like that for hosting our front end application. So, what I'm going to do is start writing a small web application with React, and using that, we'll be able to demonstrate how Hasura can progress, the schema can progress according to your application's needs, um, and then how we can move across different environments like dev, staging, prod, etc. So let's just get started. Some small. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start Hasura locally. I'm not gonna use Heroku this time. I'm gonna use Hasura in my local machine so that I can uh, quickly get play around with stuff. So let me switch to my terminal. What I'm gonna do is create a app called okay. First of all, I'm going to create a Git repo. So I'm going to use version control from the first step itself. So I've created a repository already. It's called Hasura workflow example. Um, it's called Hasura workflow example. I'm going to clone this repo. So copy this. Git clone this repo. Yep, I appear to have cloned an empty repository, which is intentional. So this is my repo. I have nothing here. I'm gonna write a readme. Hasura workflow example. Next, what I'm gonna do is create a directory called Hasura, and what I'm gonna do is follow the instructions on the Hasura documentation to get started with Docker Compose. So if I go here and getting started, Docker quick start, and the first step says get the Docker Compose file. So I'm going to download cd to my Hasura directory and download the Docker Compose file. So I have the Docker Compose file downloaded, and I take a look at this. Hasura version is there. It creates Postgres, it creates a GraphQL engine instance, and that's it. Let me just check if I have anything else running. I have some other Docker containers running. Let me just stop them. Okay, so they're slowly being stopped. Okay, I have no other containers running right now. So let me go back to the documentation, and the documentation says docker compose up -d, and I will do that. Docker compose up hyphen d. So this could be a first step, right? When you start to write an application with Hasura, or you're evaluating Hasura, and then in the process you decided I want to use Hasura. I mean, I'm getting to that phase. So if I look at the containers right now, I have Hasura GraphQL engine v1.0 beta 1 running on port 8080. It's mapped to localhost 000 8080. So switching windows in dual monitor setup is quite hard. Okay, so I go to localhost 8080 and I have my Hasura console. Got it. So this is my Hasura console. I'm gonna build a simple user profile application where we'll keep a simple user info, or um, something very straightforward, which does not involve much of a UI to it. It's just so that I can focus more on the workflow and the backend or Hasura part of it, and not in the UI or application side of it. If you have noticed, we just released Hasura v1.0 beta 1 today, and the bigger change is, or the cosmetic change is, that the endpoint is now v1 GraphQL instead of v1 alpha 1 GraphQL. So we are going more closer, or we are more closer to the stable release now. So I'm just going to create a profile table. Profile as an ID, and there's a name. Let's just keep it at it that, like right now. We'll keep adding more fields later. So my primary key is ID. I will create this table. Now I have profile in my GraphQL schema. So I've tried out various things, and at this point I decided I want to use Hasura in my React application, and that's what I'm going to do next. So I have the Hasura directory here with Docker Compose. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to create another directory, and I'm going to bootstrap a React application. So I'm going to use create React app. I'm going to call it profile. Oops, create React app not found. Okay, I am going to use npx. So it's creating it's bootstrapping the application. Okay. Done. So now I can go to the client application and yarn start, and it's starting. So this is going to build the React application and show the UI. This is the application, and I'm going to remove most of this stuff and just keep bare minimum stuff required to show our application. So first thing in a React application is, let me increase the font size, is to set up Apollo client. And to do that, we need to have a couple of things. So I'm just going to grab the setup required from a workshop repo that we have. What we need is to install all these dependencies. So it includes Apollo Boost, subscriptions, and GraphQL and stuff like that. So it's going to install these packages. In the meanwhile, let's set up this apollo.js file. This is our Apollo client. This file contains code to create our Apollo client. Let me just copy this. So copy. This is all irrelevant to the workflow part we have, but for the completion, sake of completeness, I'm just gonna get do all these things. So src vim apollo.js, or what? Why don't I do this? Like all the cool kids out there, code. Okay, happily it launched in another screen. How do I increase the font size? Okay, that's easy. Awesome. So I'll go to src, new file, apollo.js. I have this file now. Okay, so everything looks fine. My endpoint is set at localhost 8080 and this file is ready. So we have dependencies installed. We have created an Apollo client. Next thing to do is just use the client in our application. So what we do is, in the root app element, we wrap it in an Apollo provider. So I'm just gonna copy this code also. This should be in index.js. Yeah, here I'm gonna paste this, and yeah, that sounds fine. That looks fine. Done. So now let's modify this app component to remove all this boilerplate create React app stuff. Okay, and all we need is a div. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are gonna get all the profiles and show a list of profiles here. For that we need, I'll just create a profiles.js file, and here we are gonna create a component which is gonna show the profiles. Okay, let's do that. Apollo client react query component. So the way they recommend to do a query is like this. Let's just copy paste this code and go to our profile.js, paste it. So instead of dogs, let's just call it get profiles. What do we name our database? We named our database, our table is called profile. Let's just rename it to profiles. I'm going to rename the table, save. So the table has been renamed to profiles. The GraphQL schema is also changed to profiles. So let's go back to our React code, and here I'm going to call it profiles and ID and name. So I'm going to remove this select component, and instead I'm going to say div, or not div, let's say ul. And data dot profiles dot map profile li key equal to profile.id, and the value we are going to show is profile.name. I'm going to remove the select and call it profiles, and just remove this prop element, and query is get profiles. So while we are at it, we can also configure the GraphQL Apollo plugin to use our GraphQL instance to validate the queries and everything. That'll be a nice thing to do. So let's just do that. So I can just search Visual Studio Code setup, and it says extension install Apollo GraphQL VS Code Apollo. I have already done that, and here I'm going to just copy this and a file called apollo.config.js. So at the root of my repo, apollo.config.js, and I'm gonna paste this. So I'm just gonna call this Hasura, and I don't have any admin secret set, so I'm just gonna delete it. Done. No, as soon as I do this, I think I'll be able to do autocomplete and all here. No? Let's see. Let's just check if my endpoint is correct. Localhost 8080 v1 GraphQL is the right endpoint. Okay. Let's see what the logs are. Problems. Look like I don't have it installed. Looks like I don't have it. Okay, let's install the extension. I think I missed that step. So okay, now it's getting installed. The extension is installed, and it says, yeah. So Apollo does not support anonymous operation. We just need to call this something. So query get profiles. It also gives us a small button here saying execute query. Error opening content. Okay, I don't know what that means. Let's see. No logs also. Okay. It's looking for some GraphQL config file. We'll not worry about this. Awesome. So we have our profiles component ready. And what we are gonna do is use the component in app.js. Profiles. But this needs to be imported. Let's export this first. Export default profiles, and let's import it here. So let's save this and see how our application is doing. Okay, React must be in scope, noob mistake. This line needs to be in profile.js. Okay, now HTTP link has been defined twice. Cool. So we don't have any profiles yet. So let's just insert one profile. Insert profile 1, and let's go back and yeah, so we have one profile here. So now we have this sample React application. We have a profile list, and whatever profiles we have there will be shown here in a list. So let's see how our repo is looking like right now. So if I look at the status and add everything, I have a couple of files in my profile UI directory. I'm just gonna call it profile UI. Ma profiles UI, and I have Hasura directory. Now the moment I wanna version control everything, I wanna get all of them as migrations. So inside Hasura, okay, I'm gonna just use the CLI. Instructions for installing CLI can be found in the documentation. I'm just gonna update CLI to latest version. So I'm gonna create a file called config.yaml and add endpoint localhost 8080. Hey, looks like some messages in the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna have this endpoint here, and I'm gonna create a migrations directory, and this effectively makes my directory a Hasura project. And the next step is to get all the migrations from the server. So I'm going to execute Hasura migrate create. I want to call it init. And I want to say from server. So it's created some migration files with this version. So I'm going to copy the version. And if we look at, these are the files that got created, and this is the schema for our Hasura instance. Cool. We don't need this line. Let's just delete it. And I'm gonna mark this migration as applied. Skip execution on this local server. So now if I execute Hasura migrate status, I see that there's one migration, it has already been applied. Awesome. Now once I do this, my next step would be to disable the console on server. I will set Hasura enable console to false. and docker compose up-d. And after this is done, my console won't load anymore. It's still recreating. Okay, so it says resource does not exist. Now from this point onwards, I'm gonna be using Hasura console to launch the console, and here I will get everything. And for example, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a new column called what is a good column name? I have a name, profile as a name, and I will have a city, no, not a city, title, like a Mr. or Doctor, something like that, text, and it's a nullable column. So I add this column, and for the existing profile, the title is null, and we'll add more later. So when this has been done, if you look at the migrate status, we'll see that 2 migrations are present, and if we look at the migrations directory, we can see there is a alter table add column command that got added. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit all of this. I am ready to deploy my project into production. Everything is done. I have created a table, added some data. I have created a UI, and this is my project. So I'm going to do git add dot and git commit -m initial commit. So my master branch is my dev branch. I'll keep working on this master branch locally, and I will keep pushing all the changes. Now how I'm going to deploy my project onto staging is quite different. So I have 3 environment: dev, which is my local machine, and then they have a staging environment, and I have a production environment. So in theory, staging and production should be ideal. So I'm just going to demonstrate setting up one more environment. The next environment or the next step in your release pipeline would be just a replica of the second environment. So my production instance is going to live on DigitalOcean. I am going to create a DigitalOcean application, and that is where it's going to live. So I'll start my process to create or deploy my application. I have everything in this Git repo. I have my UI. I have the Hasura migrations and everything here. Awesome. So first thing to do is to go to DigitalOcean, create a new droplet for Hasura. So I'll go to marketplace and choose Hasura GraphQL. I'll choose a $5 machine. I will choose Bangalore, enable monitoring, also add my SSH key. That's me. And I will call it Hasura workflow staging. So while the droplet is getting created, what I'll do is I will go and deploy my UI onto Netlify. So it's quite straightforward. app.netlify app.netlify.com. I'll say new site from Git. I will choose GitHub. I will search for Hasura workflow. I need to configure the application. So configure on my org, insert my password. Okay, so I'm going to choose this repo and save. Awesome. Now, right now I'm going to say master. I need to figure this out. So, let's see. So the build command for a React application is yarn build. Okay, that works. I want to see what directory it outputs the files into. Got it. Now, so build is a directory, profiles UI build. So my build command is cd profiles UI and yarn build, and the publish directory is profiles UI slash build. So right now I'm deploying master. I will deploy other sites also. Okay, so master is getting deployed, and in the meanwhile I have my Hasura droplet. So what I'm gonna do is, this is my dev branch. I'm gonna create a new branch, git checkout -b staging, and this is what I will deploy to the staging UI. So if I go to this, I have my console running here, and I'm not going to do anything here. Everything on this machine or this Hasura instance will get applied from the Git workflow that we're going to follow. So let's see if our UI has gotten deployed. Site deploy is still in progress. Okay, it's still happening. Let's see. I'm just gonna change something. Profiles UI. Okay. And in the environment, I'm gonna say production branch is staging. I'm gonna say only deploy the staging branch. Awesome. But I haven't pushed the staging branch, so let me do that. Got it. So builds are going on. So my UI is getting built, and that's linked to Netlify. This can be any other CI/CD workflow that you follow. Now for Hasura's own CI/CD workflow, I'm going to use Circle CI. So Circle CI. I'm gonna go to the app. Add project. I might need to log off and log on again. I am on Hasura's org. I need to switch to Shahid and set up this project. So Linux, I'm gonna just say no language. Follow the instructions here. Create a folder name .circleci and create a file called config.yaml. So mkdir circle ci with a dot and touch config.yaml and copy the contents here. Oops. Now here I will what I will do is I will set up a bash script which will do whatever is required to deploy my Hasura instance or migrations to the Hasura instance that I give as environment variable. So let's see how that is done. So I'm gonna say call it migrate apply.sh usr bin env bash. So first step is to download the Hasura CLI. So let's see how we can do that. docs.hasura install Hasura CLI. So what we're going to do is we're going to download the Hasura CLI into our CI and we are going to use it to apply the migrations onto our target Hasura instance. So we'll work on the local Hasura instance, our repo. When everything is ready, we'll merge it to staging branch and we will trigger this CI workflow on the staging branch and deploy our changes onto the staging Hasura instance, which is running on the DigitalOcean droplet here. So installing the Hasura CLI is CLI get.sh and pipe it to bash. Instead of that, I'm just gonna use the GitHub releases page. The script is optimized for installing it on a desktop machine and stuff like that. For CI purposes, we can directly use the download link from GitHub. So I'm going to copy the Linux download link and use wget wget this thing. What is the output? I can easily check my get.sh script to see what it does. So CLI get.sh. Let's see. Where am I downloading it? Got it. So this is the command. I'm going to use the same command. So target file is /bin/hasura and the URL is this. So this will download our CLI. Now we need to do chmod it to make it executable, /bin /hasura. And the next step is, if you look at our config.yaml, this is a checkout step, and in the checkout step we can specify a directory to which where the checkout should happen. What does yeah so I'm gonna refer to our circle CA configuration for that. So it says working directory at job level. Okay, so I'm just gonna call it project. So in our script, this location would be if your script is in here, this directory, the Hasura directory will be /hasura, right? So migrate apply.sh. I'm gonna say cd /hasura and hasura migrate apply endpoint. I'm gonna take it from the environment variable Hasura endpoint. And if you have an admin secret set, you can do the same. Admin secret Hasura admin secret. This is gonna apply the migrations on the endpoint that we give. So I'm just gonna make it executable. So what I'm gonna do is, instead of doing it there, I'm gonna do it here itself. Install Hasura CLI. Command would be okay. What I'm gonna do is habits never die. Use VS Code. Okay, so we have config.yaml here, and I'm gonna copy all these instructions into config.yaml just to make it more simple. Okay, so my next step is to apply migrations. And my command would be to cd /hasura. If I go back here and copy this, So this is my job. First step is to install the Hasura CLI. And first step is checkout, which will get a repo into the image here, and then install the Hasura CLI and then apply the migrations. So let's do this. So we'll configure this and push this to our staging branch. Actually, I will do this on the master branch. I can get rid of the bash script. I'm gonna commit the changes. And then I'm gonna click this start building. The file name has to be YML. Okay, so now we have a new push. This should appear here. No? Okay, let's wait for it. And we need to give some environment variable. Yeah, it's getting triggered. So what we're gonna do is settings, um, context. Okay, how do I set environment variable? Workflows. Yeah, so environment variable, add variable, Hasura endpoint, and the endpoint is this IP. Value is this IP. HTTP. Add variable. So now if we go look at the build, it says build error. Okay. Huh. Okay. So I'm not really very sure what's going on here. I have dot circle ci slash config dot yaml. Oh, I haven't committed this. Okay, can't complain. So this should trigger a workflow which will start the build. Okay. Again, some error in the configuration. Should be here. So right now it's gonna deploy our master branch. Ideally, we want it to deploy only our staging branch, right? So let's just add a filter for that. I only want to um, do this for a particular branch. So branch. Okay. I'm gonna say circle ci build only for a branch. So jobs build branches ignore, or jobs build branches only. Got it. So we are gonna do that. Jobs build only and I'm gonna say I want to build only staging. So if I look at the last workflow run, install has failed, curl is not found. Doesn't have curl, it seems. So it's a Debian image. Let's install curl. apt get update. Let's see how that goes. So now we have said only deploy staging and install curl. So I'm guessing this won't get triggered because it will only run for the staging branch. Let's see how that goes. So in the meanwhile, let's go to our Hasura instance and disable the console over there so that we can use the console only from the CLI. Yeah, so this again failed. Okay, awesome. So now what failed is uh, checking for update. Migrate apply command has failed. because we should go to Hasura directory. Did it look like it did ignored the branch configuration altogether? So install Hasura CLI is happening. Uh, what is going on? It can't cd to Hasura. So I'm just going to debug this. I missed the branches key. Okay, so let's figure out why it was failing. Copy, paste. Now what I'm confused is what the working directory is about. So I'm going to cancel this and let's check our workflow again. Probably source dash project slash Hasura, and just to make sure that this is a proper directory, we have config.yaml, we have migrations directory. So git commit -m update config. Okay, let's see if this workflow gets triggered. Okay, it got cancelled because oh, this is the last one. Cool, I'm guessing the branch configuration has gotten applied and that is why the workflow is not getting triggered. Hi Ryan Roberts. Somebody just pinged on the chat. Okay, so let's push this to staging branch. Git merge master and push. Okay, staging has been pushed. Yeah, so the build is triggered now. Okay, it's installing the Hasura CLI. applying migrations. Okay, so the job has succeeded. So now, if we remember, our DigitalOcean instance was blank, empty, and let's take a look at if our profile has been created. The table has been created here, right? The migration is directly applied on our new instance. So let's make sure that our UI is also updated. But the problem right now is our UI does not know that the endpoint has changed. It is configured with the endpoint as GraphQL engine hostname with localhost 8080. So this needs to be changed. I don't remember how to use environment variable. Let me check that. Create React app. Okay. Okay. So we can use an environment variable with React app. So I will call this process.env.react app Hasura endpoint. And in my Netlify build settings, I will set an environment variable, edit variable, React app Hasura endpoint, copy, paste to my DigitalOcean IP. So paste, save. Now I'm going to commit this change. And I'm going to push this to master. Master is not going to be deployed anywhere. Master is only for local. Just to make sure everything works, what I'm going to do is run the app locally. The app is already running locally. It's saying no. Yeah, I just need to cancel this. So profiles UI. I have added the React app variable, right? So when I do yarn start, I set this environment variable React app Hasura endpoint to localhost 8080 and I do yarn start. So this should bring up the application connected to my local Hasura instance. Okay, network error. What happened? HTTP is not required. Got it. So let's remove HTTP. Might need to modify that on Netlify also. Okay, I haven't added HTTP here. So my React app is working. Profile 1 is being shown. Now what I'm going to do is edit this a little bit, because if you remember, I'm going to open Hasura console again, and this is connected to my localhost 8080. We have added a new field called title. So I'm going to edit this and add title as Mr. here, MR, and I'm going to edit the React application to show the title also. So in the profiles component, I'm going to say uh, what I need to show is let's see. Yeah, I need to show uh, we'll do this. I need to show the profile dot title dot and then profile dot name. So this is my application now. If I look at the preview for this, undefined profile one, that is because we are requesting ID and name and we are not requesting the title. So I'm going to request the title also, and now I am getting the Mr. Profile one. So this is my local development now. Now let's see how this change. Okay, I'm going to make one more change using the Hasura console. I am going to add another I'm going to change the entire structure. Before that, let's take a look at how our application looks like right now in Netlify. Okay, why don't we, if you go to Netlify right now, this is our application which just says loading, right? Because it's an error stage. It is trying to find localhost 8080. We haven't added the environment variable earlier and everything. So let's make a push right now and see how everything gets applied. Let's look at the changes. So we have made this change, git add dot add title to the profile text. So this get pushed, and because it's master, nothing is gonna happen, right? Netlify is not gonna trigger anything because we have configured it to deploy only staging, and the circle CI jobs are also not getting triggered because we have configured it deploy only staging. So the moment we check out to staging and merge master, and this can be done using a pull request or any other workflow, both this will get triggered and the build is gonna happen, right? So staging I have pushed, so it's right now building the branch, and if you look at the build logs, we can see all the dependencies are being fetched. And from the circle CI side, it's also trying to apply the migrations, but since there are no new migrations, it says nothing to apply. So it's totally cool to keep applying migrations, and it'll only apply the latest ones. Cool. So Netlify is still building it. So what we have finally achieved is a project with a Git based workflow. We have a branch called staging. We work out of master and everything works locally. And when we need to change some deploy something, we push that to the staging branch. And our UI is deployed using Netlify. Our migrations are applied onto our staging instance, which is on DigitalOcean using Circle CI. So you never have to execute a new command or anything. Everything is just executed via Git. So the build has completed. If you go to the deploys page, it's published, and I go to the URL, I can see network error again. Let's see what the error is. Okay. It's trying to contact HTTPS. So the Apollo client is using some fancy logic. So let's just not do this. And I'm just gonna comment out all this. or wait, what I can do is, yeah, um, just not do this, but use the scheme directly. Okay, so that is saved. Again, I make the change in master. uh, I'll merge master and git push. Can also change the endpoint to v1. Okay, so this should trigger a netlify build again, and let's see, yeah, it's building. Oh, that was pretty quick. Okay, okay, it's published. So if we go and look at it, we see nothing because we don't have any data. And if we go to our DigitalOcean console, and if we go to profiles and insert some data, save and refresh our application, I need an HTTPS site because this is HTTPS and it can't make API calls to HTTP. So let's just quickly add a domain for our staging site. I'm going to use Hasura's domain to let's call it profile staging. This is the IPv4 address. So my domain is profilestaging.hasura.app.io. So adding HTTPS to a DigitalOcean droplet is pretty straightforward. You have to log into the droplet, go to etc hasura, add the error code already. So profile staging is added, the domain is hasura.app.io, and what you can do is edit the caddy file and change this to profiles staging.hasura.app.io, hasura staging.hasura.app.io, and docker compose restart caddy. So caddy is going to use let's encrypt and get an HTTPS certificate for us. If we look at caddy logs, validation succeeded, requesting certificates. Okay, we have HTTPS. So this is our new domain. This is our Hasura GraphQL engine URL, and I'm gonna just use this. Now our code actually makes sense. If you are on HTTPS, use HTTPS. If you are not on HTTPS, use HTTP. That is what that code used to do. Let's see. Let me undo the changes. Don't worry about this is some boilerplate code. You can always replace this with uh, whatever is okay for you. Got it. So I'm going to remove the v1 alpha 1 also. So I'm going to change some environment variables. One is copy this and use it in Netlify in the deploy settings. Environment, edit, use this. And in Circle CI also for the project settings, environment variables, instead of the IP, we are going to add variable. If you have an admin secret, you can add it also as an environment variable. Okay, so that's done. Code is updated. New environment variable is set. Everything should work with the push now. I'm gonna push to the staging branch directly. We'll keep them in sync. So staging branch is pushed and Netlify will try to build it again. Okay, and Circle CI would also got triggered. Yeah, that has succeeded. Cool. So it's published, and if you refresh now, we have the data shown here, right? Awesome. So let's see. So our application is deployed. It's contacting our staging instance, profile staging.hasura.io, to get the data, and everything is just working, right? Now let's say we are working on more improvements to our application. For example, we added we have Hasura console running locally. This is Hasura console in local. We modified and we added a new column called city, which is again text, and for the existing thing we are going to edit. I'm going to say Bangalore, and we are going to modify our local application which is running here. This is our localhost. We are going to add city also to the query by arrow grouping. Cannot query field city on tribe profiles. Didn't we just add a field called city? We did. That's okay. We'll come to that, and we are going to add from profile dot city. So let's see how this works out. Okay, this should be outside. Done. So our React application is updated. We have added a new column to our GraphQL engine. The new column is added, and our existing DigitalOcean staging endpoint does not have this column, as we can see from here, and the application also does not have uh, the new value. So all we need to do is commit and push this, and in the along with that, let me also show an advanced workflow. I can create a migration myself. Let's say I want to insert some default data or stuff like that. I can create a new migration, add data, sorry. So if you go here, it will say new migration files created, called add data up and add data down. So in the add data up, I'm gonna say type run SQL args SQL MySQL is insert into profiles values profile name, title, city, values. Just gonna check this syntax once. Insert into syntax. Values is again a tuple. Yeah. So values, Hasura XR okay, and this is a sample data point that we want to insert, and we are not going to do any down migration for this right now. And if we do Hasura migrate apply, this should get applied. So our local instance should have Miss Hasura from Hasura Halli, right? Our staging instance still only have this one thing. So if we include some data points in the migration, it will also get applied. Let's see how that happens. So we have these new changes. We'll commit all of them. And we will push them to master. Nothing will happen. But if we go to staging and merge master and push, this is our live version. This will get updated. Let's go to Netlify and see what's happening. So Netlify is building this, and on Circle CI we can see Hasura CLI is installed and migrations are being applied. So migrations are applied. Netlify build is also published. So this is our live staging website. If we refresh, we will get the first entry for which city was null, and the second entry which was added through migrations. So this repo will be online for reference. Take a look at this and let us know if you have any questions on Discord, and let us know if you need us to cover any particular use cases, and we will try to cover them. So that's it for today, and let's hope to see you all in the next stream.